Hello guys, uh, this is the new JK BMS, the one with the dedicated communication board. It is the 100 amp variant with 1 amp of active balancing. And as usual, we can see all the instantly needed information on the landing status page. At the top, we can see the cumulative uptime. Under that, we can see the charge MOSFET status, the discharge MOSFET status, pre-discharge, and the balancing status. Keep in mind this doesn't indicate or reflect the choices on the control tab. It is only indication of what the BMS decides to enable or disable at this instant, respecting, of course, the parameters in the settings tab. As you can see here in the control tab, balancing is enabled, but here the value is off since the requirements for balancing are not met yet. This is also true for charge and discharge. Now, the pre-discharge feature is a new one with these BMSs. It allows the BMS to pre-charge the capacitors inside the connected devices to pre-charge them slowly to eliminate the current rush that could damage these capacitors. Okay, and below we can see the voltage, the current, the power, the capacity. Capacity is the value here in the settings page. The remaining capacity, both amp hours and percentage, the cycles and the cycled capacity. We also have 5 temperature sensors. One is on each sensing harness and the sensing wires. And also there's the MOSFET temperature, the board, the actual BMS. It is T3. Here it's called MOS temp. We have heating current. Is the current drawn by the heating mat if you have it installed and enabled. We also have below time emergency. So this, after you enable emergency mode, this countdown is activated for 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes, the emergency mode will be disabled. One case where you would need to enable emergency mode is if for some reason, after your BMS disables discharge MOSFETs, your all-in-one inverter won't be able to sense a voltage, and unless it senses a voltage, it will not try to charge the battery. So if you are certain that solar or grid power is available to charge the battery, you can enable emergency mode, and after a couple of minutes of charging, you can disable it again. But if you forget, it will be disabled automatically after the countdown. On the other side, we have average cell temperature, cell voltage. Below we have delta voltage, or the difference between the highest and lowest cells. Then we have the balance current if the BMS is balancing. We have the heating status if the BMS decides it is necessary and if you enable it from the control tab. Below we have the voltages for all 16 cells. This BMS is also capable of working with 8 cells for 24 volt systems. And below that we have the cell wires, the cell's wire resistance. Okay, now for the settings, it's the second tab. At the top we can see the chemistry type. Be careful to always check the parameters below if you click any of these chemistry types. Most parameters will reset, even these, capacity and trigger voltage for balancing. With previous versions of JK BMSs, these didn't usually reset. And below we have the usual parameters and some new ones. I will only talk about the new ones. most of them, and we'll give some recommendations. So first, the start balancing voltage. I recommend 3.45. So if one cell reaches this voltage, it will start balancing and feed the lowest cell. Max balance current, I don't find the need to change this for 1 amp or 2 amp balancing. So here we have this parameter. It is one of the new parameters. RCV, it's the requested voltage by the BMS from the charger. So the BMS requests this voltage from the charger, this value times 16, and I recommend to set it also to 3.45, the same as the start balance voltage. Also, one new parameter is state of charge 100%. So when this voltage is reached, the BMS will set the state of charge to 100 and report it to the inverter. I usually set this SOC 100 1 millivolt less than the RCV. If you set it equal or higher, you will get an error. Sometimes you won't get an error, but when you power cycle the BMS, all the parameters will reset to lithium ion. So be careful. You should also set this over voltage protection recovery to 1 millivolt less than the SOC 100 also. Another new parameter is SOC0. So when this voltage is reached by any of the cells, the state of charge is set to 0. No need to change this. Another new parameter is voltage cell RFV. So this is the floating voltage. This value times 16 is requested by the BMS for the floating voltage. I will get to this later, but usually I set it to 3.3 or 3.35. Now we go to discharge, Precharge. As I said before, this is also a new parameter that allows the BMS to charge the capacitors slowly, avoiding damage. I don't find any need to change the 5 seconds. I tried with many inverters like Day, Sunsync, Solarc, Growatt, Solotech, Osta, and many more. So at least for a single or dual inverter setup, 5 seconds is more than enough. You can increase it to 10 just to be on the safe side. RCV time in hours and RFV time in hours. These two are also new parameters related to the floating feature that was introduced in the new firmware. As far as I know, the way it should work is after the SOC 100 value is triggered, as set in the previously in the above parameter here. If it is triggered, it should keep requesting, the BMS should keep requesting the RCV, which is the charging voltage of 3.45 times 16 for this many hours, in our case 2 hours. And then after this time has passed, after 2 hours, it will start requesting the RFV we set above, which is 3.3 times 16. And it will keep requesting it for 12 hours. And after 12 hours, the BMS will again request the RCV until the state of charge 100% is triggered again, and so on. I'm still testing this and waiting for reply from the JK team. Now, for communication, there are more options for both RS485 and also CAN communication. So for RS, as we can see, now we only have 3 grayed out places or options, and for CAN we only have 1. Now for this, cannot change this. It is the value of the dip switches on the front of the communication board. So whatever you set on the dip switches is reflected in here. Another addition to the parameters and features is the dry contact triggers. So as you know, the communication board has normally open and normally closed triggers, dry contact. So we have some options to trigger with. Let's see. So state of charge low, over voltage for whole battery, under voltage for the battery, cell over voltage, and cell under voltage, charge over current, discharge over current, and some temperature for battery and MOSFET, and some system alarms. Let's check the second one. All the same. And we can set a trigger and release for these 2 triggers. Okay, now on the last tab, we can see we can modify the password. I would recommend you change the password as soon as possible. Default password is 126. There's the charge switch, discharge switch, balancing switch, emergency switch, heating, disable temperature sensor. If for some reason you need to disable the temperature sensor, keep in mind with this BMS the temperature sensors cannot be removed since they are included with the sensing wire harnesses. But if you disable them, you won't get any readings on the status page. So it will totally disable them. I requested from JK to keep the values, but just ignore them. Display always on. This will keep the display always on. I have a 7-inch display and I keep it on all the time. Smart sleep. There's a parameter where you can set some time, for example, 24 hours. If the BMS is idle for 24 hours, it will turn off, I guess. Time stored data. I think this is used to include data and time with the warnings and errors. And this is where to calibrate the date and time. It is fetched from the phone's date. Also, we have the floating mode enable and disable. This is the switch for floating mode. So these are all the new parameters. And I think if these 2 values are like I explained before, it would be perfect, and all the requirements for the perfect BMS are met. That's why I like JK BMS. If you have any other recommendations, please keep them in the comment section, and like and subscribe for more videos like this.